And do you, Easter Day, take this man, George Douglas Sprout, to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, from the moons of Tatooine to the mountains of Hoth, to love like Leia, and to cherish like Chewbacca, from this day forth until you are both transported to a galaxy far, far away. Vi had to give it to this registrar. At least they had a more interesting script than the previous ones. Valentine Day had already become something of an expert in weddings at 12 years old, having watched her mother's 2 failed attempts to marry George Sprout and her nan's 1 successful one marrying Rod Staff. Perhaps if being a spy didn't work out, she could conduct weddings? It was certainly a safer career choice. Although, judging by her family's weddings, not necessarily. "I do," Easter smiled, trying to ignore the R2-D2 bleeping enthusiastically at her feet. Vi's mind drifted to Russell's irritating robot with a love of 1980s pop music. "Come back, Agadoo," she muttered to herself. "All is forgiven." A gasping sob from her grandmother made Vi look over at Independence Day, who hadn't even had time to dye her hair her customary wedding pink, so quickly had this wedding been pulled together. "There's nothing like the end of the world to focus your priorities," her mum had kind of joked, as she and George hastily organised their intimate, Vi had quickly learned this meant small, wedding, at the only venue they could get with 2 days' notice, a Star Wars tribute hall that had a last-minute cancellation when the groom admitted to the bride that he preferred Star Trek. The only guests were immediate family, which, according to the bride, had 2 key advantages. "Well, firstly, it gets round that whole awkward, do I invite my best friend who actually turned out to be Umbra?" Easter had said, and secondly, it saves a fortune on catering. Apparently she was kinda joking again. Vi had quickly learnt this meant it wasn't very funny. Vi shook her head, trying to dismiss any thoughts of Umbra, the world's greatest supervillain, known to them for years as Vi's godmother, Honey Bee. Umbra would have to wait. Today was about Mum and George. Umbra was tomorrow's problem. Although with Umbra already in space, clutching a mind control device that would give her total domination of the planet, Vi tried not to worry about how many tomorrows they all had. Another breathless sob from Nan snapped Vi back to the replica deck of the Millennium Falcon, as her nearly stepbrother Russell Sprout handed his dad the ring that would finally make Easter George's wife. "With this ring, a custom that incidentally dates back to the ancient Egyptians who saw the circle as a symbol of eternity," George sniffed, "I thee wed." Vi and Russell smiled at one another as George placed a ring on Easter's finger. They were finally going to become a family. She watched Rod hand Nan a hanky, which Indy coughed into emotionally. Nan had been looking forward to this day as much as her own wedding. It was sweet to see her so overcome. "But first," the registrar said as solemnly as his large Yoda ears would allow, "I must ask if anyone here present knows of any lawful objection to this marriage. Raise your lightsabers now, or forever hold your peace." Vi forced a smile. This had historically been the sticking point with her mum's previous weddings, the first interrupted by the return of Vi's reformed supervillain father, Robert Ford, and the second by George's ex-wife, Genevieve. But today, nothing could go wrong. Everyone here was thrilled for the bride and groom. There wasn't anyone to object. Though Vi still willed Yoda ears to get a move on, just in case. "In which case," the registrar finally announced with a smile, "I now pronounce you—" "I'm so sorry," Nan suddenly cried out. "I can't carry on." Vi felt her blood freeze in her veins. Surely her Nan couldn't object to her own daughter's marriage. They'd all had to sign a pre-wedding declaration promising they wouldn't defect to the dark side for pity's sake. "Nan?" Vi exclaimed. "Indy?" George cried out. "Lotus Flower?" Rod growled. "Mum?" Easter yelled. "Darth Vader?" Russell asked. Everyone turned to look at Russell Sprout, who simply shrugged. "Come on," he muttered. "Wouldn't be the weirdest thing to have happened at one of these weddings." "Mum, what is going on?" said Easter through strained teeth. "I need to stop this wedding," Indy gasped. "For crying out loud, Mum!" shouted Easter, throwing her bouquet on the floor. "All this time you've had to say something, and you choose now. I know that things didn't work out with Robert, and you said I shouldn't have married him because he's..."